were aware of this, but you were reading that one line in the reading just now, and you said you were to go about your business as if you weren't being photographed, and you were photographed right then. I just thought it was really interesting.
I mean, you know, at the end of the first decade of the 21st century, I think we all pretty well have to go about our business without being photographed. Otherwise, we won't be able to go about our business.
Yeah. And my question is, this latest 3 cycle of books, you've sort of been seeking out the zeitgeist in some ways, and you've been trying to figure out what is going on in a way that I'm at least more aware of than in your previous books, because in like the Bridge cycle, for instance, like if I went and reread those, I would think I would read them differently, seeing how you've dealt with the present now, and seeing sort of what tools you use and figuring out stuff that's more recognizable to me. And I wonder how you know in these latest books you've written when you're onto something, because you're writing something that is either going to expose your wisdom or your ignorance when it comes to talking about the present day, and there's so much to absorb. When do you feel like you've really gotten to the heart of something going on at present?
Well, I don't with any, you know, I don't with any certainty prior to publication. So there's always a certain anxiety that any published novelist knows. It's like, will people get this? Or, you know, won't they get it? That's what, like, the thing about any imaginary future, any ever imaginary future that anybody writes is written out of the zeitgeist. Most particularly if it's written by by a writer who in a sense is like so deep into the genre that he or she is utterly naive about the fact that they have nothing but the zeitgeist to work from. You can't extrapolate without having a present. It's like trying to build a model train layout without having a 4x8 piece of plywood. It's just not gonna work. The piece of plywood is the world outside the window and the world in the newspaper, and your future is not going to be convincing to anybody if it's not grounded in the present moment. So every work of science fiction that imagined in any realistic detail a future, when you read it in the real future, you can only read it as a historical document about the day in which it was created. I mean, I've just always taken that for granted. When I started reading science fiction, I was like so young and so kind of wonderfully uneducated that I literally reverse engineered the history of the 20th century out of the science fiction that I read, because every bit of it was covered with this patina of quaintness. Just as Neuromancer in parts today is covered with a patina of quaintness. The 12-year-old today picks up Neuromancer, gets 20 pages into it, and thinks, I've got it. It's about what happened to the cell phones. Maybe they did cause cancer. That's what I would have thought when I was 12 years old. That's the kind of thing I got from Heinlein and all those very smart John Campbell writers who were writing like 10 years before I was born. And to me, that's always been part of the appeal of imaginary future science fiction. You dot the last I, put the last period on, and it starts obsoleting. It obsoletes steadily forever. After that, it diverges. Every work of science fiction does this. It diverges further from the real track of history as it goes along, and it can't help but do it. So